thanks, Gara, and thanks for being the catalyst for getting us all together, and thanks to each of you for participating. Many of you are old friends and allies. All of you I know from the list that was sent me are kindred spirits, and I actually wish we could be doing this in the same room, because there's so much I, as a journalist, would like to hear from you about what's going on in our country and our world. Every morning I wake up, I'm reminded of that line from the old James Weldon Jones epic called God's Trombones, where the angel Gabriel looks around and says, everything tied down is coming loose. It certainly does seem that way in our country these days, and I appreciate what all of you do to keep trying to tie it together again. Most of you know that in addition to my work as a journalist, I run the modest Human Center for Media and Democracy, which is designed to try to support independent journalists, writers, and ideas. When I took it over, it was the less modest, because at that time we had about $150 million, the less modest John and Florence Schumann Foundation. But the Schumann brothers, who are now in their 80s, wanted to spin down in their lifetimes, and they had underwritten some of my television, which is how we got acquainted, and we were kindred spirits, and they asked me to take it on when their then president, an old friend of mine, developed cancer and died within 3 months. I did, and they said, let's spin down, and that's what we have been doing, so that today we aptly deserve the title modest. But well over $1 million of our funds have gone to New Press at critical moments. We made our first big grant back in 1996, a $750,000 grant to match the pledge of an anonymous donor. Without question, the Schumann family and I think this is one of the best grants we ever made. Our portfolio has been designed to try to, we loosely call it the renewal of democracy, and we've supported a lot of things like activists and advocates, but our main thrust has been to support the creation and promotion of ideas that reflect a certain notion of America's future, a future that we think we can all invent together. And so we have really been focused on progressive thinkers and writers and ideas, and we couldn't have imagined a better way to do that than through New Press. I have to confess that we were impressed when Andre Schifrin, who's an old friend of mine, and of course the founder of New Press, told us that his model for his new nonprofit book publisher was, in fact, my independent production company, Public Affairs Television. He said he wanted to do for ideas in print what PAT was doing at the time for ideas on the air. We had just done 2 years of a series called World of Ideas that had created some waves, and that was in 87 and 88. And when Andre came along in 90, he said that was his model. Well, he's outperformed us in so many ways. I've told him often that his flattery got him somewhere, but it wasn't really the reason we signed on. We signed on because at that time, as some of you will remember, America's public debate was dominated by right-wing talk shows and driven by front organizations for economic interest for whom the idea of public enterprise, of a public sector, of a commons is and was and is abhorrent. I mean, liberals seemed spent by that time, and the pinched conservative ideology had, as all of you know, hijacked the Republican Party. We felt that our side, loosely, had to fight back in the battle of ideas, and that books were one of the most decisive fronts in that battle. And I think New Press has played a very influential role in the resurrection of the notion that America has a powerful, strong, progressive tradition that is based upon fulfilling the American opportunity, the American promise for people irrespective of their wealth. And whether it's Studs Terkel's books reminding us of who the real people of this country are, who are often overlooked, or whether it's more narrowly oriented but highly influential small books that have talked about inequality and the alternatives to the market. Those, it's always, it's impossible. I know this in my own television. I can't tell you whether a broadcast, what's the consequence of a broadcast, or no any more than we can what's the consequence of an idea or a book. But I have watched this scene over the last 20 years, and I am sure that Barack Obama's presidency today would not have occurred had there not been, across a wide array of fronts, an effort to keep pushing the notion of a just, fair, and open America. That it was that movement over the years, fed in so many respects by books from the New Press and others, that created that grounded America to be ready for a progressive and first black American president. I mean, as I say, you could not say which book or which idea or which group or which organization, but it's clear that last year was the culmination of a decision on our part in many ways to fight back over the last 20 years. And I think that remains today New Press's challenge. I mean, I think New Press faces two important, that we need to frame New Press in two important ways. One in the coming scheme of things. One is the electronic universe. I mean, even though I still love television and still do it weekly on Bill Moyers' Journal, I'm totally tied into the electronic universe. And were I 5 years younger, I know that I would have to recast my craft and my contribution in around the chip that is